Hi, this is Earl Oliver from Sully's Vintage Wrestling.
This is Raj Giri with WrestlingInc.com.
This is Sean Reed, boxing writer and undercover low-key wrestling fan, and you're listening to Duke Loves Wrestling.
Woo!
We are just days removed from the NBA Finals 2019. Congratulations to the Toronto Raptors on defeating the Golden State Warriors, the dynasty that is the Golden State Warriors there. Kawhi Leonard led the way. He was the NBA Finals MVP. Great job there. Folks, I am your man, the Duke, host of the Duke Loves Wrestling podcast, and this is part 2 of my exclusive conversation with the Hall of Famer, Peter Vecsey. You know, Peter and I have an amazing talk just about the NBA Finals, the aftermath, his thoughts on players who are convinced to play injured. He even delves in deep, real deep, regarding Kawhi Leonard and what really happened in San Antonio. So, you know, this is definitely one that you can't miss. In fact, I'm going to stop right now. Let's just get straight to it. My exclusive Part 2 interview with Peter Vecsey. All right, folks, so the NBA Finals has come and gone, and boy, what a series that was. What a series between the Toronto Raptors and the Golden State Warriors. And, you know, our friend Peter Vecsey said he'd come back and give his thoughts not only on the series, but just, you know, the state of basketball in general. So I said, hey, man, you know, the Hall of Famer, he wants to come back. You're damn right. We're going to let him come back. So, Peter Vecsey, welcome back to Duke Loves Wrestling. And right away, what are your thoughts on that series there? That NBA Finals this year was something else, huh?
You know, I said before the series began, or maybe in the first game, that the all-time best NBA Finals are the ones where the visiting team wins at least twice on the other team's court. And here you had the Raptors win 3 times, you know, in Oakland, and the Warriors win twice in Toronto. So it's unbelievable. I mean, really one of the best ever. Unfortunately, you know, it was, you know, you got those 2 unbelievable injuries to 2 of the best players in the game that, you know, that loused things up. But I'm not one of those guys that say, you know, if they had played, Warriors definitely would have won. You still had Toronto that did have the home court advantage, but you know, a great team. And just because you've got your two guys who are you know, on the same scale as Curry, you have three official scorers at the same time, doesn't mean you're going to win. It could mean you're going to lose easier because, you know, yeah, guys trying to share the ball. But, you know, and then there were other injuries. You know, Looney gets distracted from it, but still, you know, the fact that here's a team winning for the first time in history, and you know, a team that, you know, could have won its fourth championship in 5 years. You know, it was pretty amazing stories all over the place. And so, you know, I was riveted like everybody else. I was riveted to the television, except during half times and pregame. That's when I walk my dog. I don't want to miss anything outside.
I wonder why. And listen, you know, shout out to the Toronto Raptors, like you said, their very first championship in NBA history, which is, you know, fantastic for them. And, you know, it was a team effort. I mean, one of the things that you talked about was don't sleep on Toronto because their defense is so strong. And I'll tell you, man, they certainly proved that much because their defense is really what kept them in each one of those games.
You know, they defended every position, which is really unheard of. You know, usually there's a weak spot that you can attack, but even the subs that they brought in, they could cover. and they communicated out on the floor, and they sacrificed, and they did all the stuff, that coaches talk about winning teams doing. The interesting part is that here's a team that was the best team in the East the previous year. And, Masai, the president, he changed up, he fired the coach of the year in Dwayne Casey, which, by the way, when he was in Denver, he fired the coach of the year, George Karl. So this is kind of his MO. But, even at the time, it was tough to fault them because yeah, they had great success, but, did you really want to go through another season listening to the same voice? And, so things, I really wasn't up against the changes, and then he made the trade, DeRozan for Kawhi Leonard, and, that certainly, it was negative at the time because he had lied to DeRozan, told him one thing, did another. So, you got to look at Kawhi a little funny because, this is the guy that, Kawhi is going to have to trust if he's going to re-sign. Will he tell him the truth about things? I don't know. I see a lot of stuff on TV that they never talk about. And one of the things I think I saw was right after they won, and Cy is hugging Leonard and won't let go. And Leonard's trying to get free and not even looking at him. He's looking past him.
Wow.
So I thought there was something there for that. And I could see when he did let go, Masai wasn't too happy with, you can see he wasn't too happy with that hug. And then he made that, and then Masai made the deal, Valanciunas, and he got Gasol. So he really, the team won the East the previous year, but look at those changes. And then, of course, was part of the Kawhi trade. So he had three of the top 6-7 guys on the team change, and he changed coaches, which, I won't lie to you, I called him and tried to get Mark Jackson in there. He wanted me to tell him what I liked about Mark and all that stuff, but he said, we're pretty well set on hiring an assistant coach, and it was Nurse. So, okay, fine. But my point is that, there were a lot of changes to this Raptors team, big changes, and they all were very, very consequential. And so that's really, really interesting. The team can do so well one year, make those radical changes, and win it. Whoa!
Yeah, that's for damn sure. And it's funny because last time we spoke, you were talking about Kawhi Leonard and how much respect you have for him. You even called him a real man, just because there's a guy that sticks to his principles and respect in general is clearly a important thing for him. And certainly, when we think about some of the things that happened in San Antonio on his way out and how the media treated him and what have you, in my opinion, there was definitely a lack of respect on his way out of the door. So,
way before that. I mean, they were teammates and Popovich through these suppositories that are working there, as disguised as media, putting stuff out there about him and things that the franchise didn't like and stuff like that. So they were killing him, at least the last half of that year when he decided to shut it down after coming back and playing 9 games. And then, he was hurting and he decided that was it. Yeah.
So many people took shots at him over shutting it down and putting his body before the team. And even on his way out and this entire season, people just taking shots at him.
Even during the season, correct. Because he did stay out how many games this year? 20? Something like that?
Yep.
And so every time he sat down, people go, oh, yeah, there's Kawhi. He's doing, you know. And,
Sure.
Meanwhile, there was intelligence behind those sitting it down. He wasn't sitting it down to rest per se. He was shutting it down to make sure his legs were strong. I guarantee you those days off, he was lifting weights and working out. And so he wanted to be ready for the final, or for the playoffs. And guess what?
He sure was.
Yeah.
In fact,
Yeah.
listen, Peter, last June, so this is June of 2018, you wrote a column on your Patreon where you really dug in to this San Antonio Spurs and Kawhi Leonard, the real story behind what happened with that whole situation. And, you know, if you don't mind, I'd like for you to share that story on the air with everyone, because here is a thing that most people just don't know about. A lot of folks are still online, still talking trash about Kawhi, and you know, he didn't do the Spurs right, as if it's his fault or something like that. And the real story is just not out there as much as it should be. So let's set this record straight once and for all. I'm going to shut up, and I'm going to ask you, the Hall of Fame journalist, the Hall of Fame analyst, Peter Vecsey, if you don't mind, please share with everyone your column from June of 2018 on what really happened between the Spurs and Kawhi Leonard.
You know, I certainly will. I'm just sorry that, people like Michelle Beal, didn't subscribe to Patreon, so she might have had a clue on what was going on instead of repeating propaganda that she read coming out of San Antonio and from people not in the know. And, that was just, it was a total embarrassment that, first of all, she's not a reporter, and she certainly proved it with that. But I only recently heard what she said about him. It was preposterous. Anyway, I'll be glad to read it. It's, I hope the listeners pay attention. Can pay attention that long. I hope their attention span is long. But this was written on June 26th, 2018. And again, I think maybe, if 300, 400 people read it, that would have been all. And so here we go. All right. Stay with me. Minutes after Lonnie Walker IV was drafted number 18 by the Spurs, ESPN's Maria Taylor interviewed him alongside David Robinson. The Admiral, as anyone subscribing to this epistle knows, played most of his Hall of Fame career for Greg Popovich. Taylor wondered if Robinson had any advice for Miami shooting guard. Quote, "Trust Greg Popovich," close quote, he said earnestly. Quote, "He'll take good care of you," close quotes. Considering the acute conflict between the San Antonio franchise and his franchise player, Robinson's reply couldn't have been more untimely and insular. For David's information, the Spurs no longer frolic in a land called Honolulu, and Kawhi Leonard is not little Jackie Paper or Tim Duncan. Given Robinson's response was spur of the moment, his thoughtlessness is excusable. Not that given an eternity to answer, he'd say anything differently regarding the Pope Pop. Conversely, Bruce Bowen's Sirius XM shelling of Kawhi last Thursday, keep in mind this was June 28th, 2018, Thursday night, was senseless, shabbily negligent. His inimitable witlessness and sightless allegiance to an organization he helped win 3 titles, Bowen accused Kawhi of making excuses for sitting out all but 9 games last season due to right quadriceps injury. First, it was, I misdiagnosed, said Bowen. And you want to say that they didn't have your best interest at heart. He's kind of quoting Kawhi, or moments later, in his unintelligible diatribe, Bowen took offense with word to the media that Kawhi wanted to be traded to Los Angeles, preferably the Lakers. I'm putting that in there. Where he's from. Bowen indicted Kawhi for the leak. Quote, I think he's getting bad advice. He continued. Sentiments of shadowy Popovich surrogates, in undeviating dig at Representatives Mitch Frankel, his agent, and his uncle Dennis Robertson. This negligible variation of an earlier anonymous chant that ran rampant through the national media. Quote, the only thing that has changed about Kawhi is the people speaking for him now. Close quotes. I think, said Bowen, the operative word, think. What you're starting to see is an individual given a certain amount of advice, not the right advice. He clumsily determined based on nothing. Then Bowen, controverting previous statements, not Kawhi not forthcoming about his issues with the team. Quote, one time has Kawhi come out and said anything to the effect of, single quote, you know what, hey, I really enjoyed being in San Antonio, or I can't stand what's going on here in San Antonio, close that single quote. Not one time has he said anything. As a former player, you would think Bowen would celebrate the maintenance of a strict code of silence by the team's star of in-house grievances and disagreements. Bowen also said he believed Kawhi's decision to rehab in New York instead of with the team was a problem. Well, it certainly became one, undeniably, but for reasons illuminated below, not the mindless logic proposed by Bowen. As a player, says Bowen, if I'm a leader of a team, my team goes on the road in the playoffs, I'm with the guys, he declared. Because that's what it's all about. It's all about camaraderie. It's about fellowship, brotherhood. When that didn't happen, it's all kinds of sirens and alarm signals that says to me, is this person fully vested? I don't want to take a player who's not willing to support his guys during the course of their time needing him. Gratefully, that concluded Bowen's recklessly tripping his own tongue, a la screaming anal Smith, at the expense of today's subject concerning situations he neither demonstrated understanding of nor presented any information to support his unfounded chatter. So sad to see Bowen still chug-a-lugging Kool-Aid from Popov's chalice. Elsewhere, someone closely affiliated with Leonard's advisors found Bowen's words as deeply disturbing as I did. Hold on, let's take a time out. Why is everyone so angry with Kawhi? Quote, Kawhi Leonard is innocent, my source declares. He should be commended. He did what you would teach every family member to do. Keep family business behind closed doors. He didn't even talk about differences with the organization to teammates. That's really commendable. Bruce is an outsider. How can he condemn Kawhi for not talking? He's not a talker. He's a doer. And he did everything right. He did what you teach your son to do. Keep your trouble at home. Keep them inside the organization. If Kawhi were in the mob, his family would be taken care of for life. Close quotes. My entrenched source had agreed to a 15-minute max interview, but Bowen's bombardment brought me unlicensed access. A simpleton needs to make things as simple as possible, especially a guy on the warning track of life. So let's segregate the skirmishes and I'll supply the quotes from Kawhi's camp. Number one is him seeking a second opinion regarding his quad and embracing it. Quote, Kawhi listened to the Spurs doctors, did everything he was told, but when he went back to play, his knee began to hurt from the stress. He was scared about blowing it out. He saw what happened to Isiah Thomas when he played in pain for Boston in the playoffs. He got reduced to damaged goods. As a free agent this summer, he'll never recoup the $50 to $100 million he lost by deciding to play. And we'll get into Durant later, because this is exactly the same situation. So here we go. Dr. Jonathan Glasgow, a renowned orthopedic surgeon and co-chair of sports medicine in New York City's Mount Sinai Medical Center, was Kawhi's go-to specialist. His esteemed opinion was the quad was not fully healed and recommended Leonard deactivate. Quote, rest and rehabilitation is the only cure. Again, see Kevin Durant. If the blood is being distributed properly, it'll swell up. It's a slow, strenuous process. According to Bruce, Kawhi should have risked $200 million and change because he's making $18 million this season. Should have done what doctors wanted, the Spurs doctors. Quote, ask Isiah if he regrets playing hurt. Ask Grant Hill if he regrets not getting a second opinion after his ailing foot when he was at Duke. Ask him if he regrets playing hurt with the Pistons. Had he seen a doctor outside those organizations, Grant Hill would have turned out to be Grant Hill. Quote, there was some bullying going on with the Spurs, my source indicated. Asked what he meant by that, he said, quote, Pop made it clear no one from this organization is working outside, he said. We've got everything that's needed here, right here in the facility. Close single quotes. That's intimidating. It's not like your dad knows you've got some psychological issues but refuses to allow you to see a therapist. Tells you, hey, we'll take care of the problem here at home, but neither you nor your mom, neither me nor your mom know how the mind works, how everything is connected. Kawhi needed an outside source, not paid for by the team. We wanted the 1,000% truth. Quote, it's not like we picked Dr. Glasgow out of a phone book. It's not like Kawhi was kidnapped and working out in a warehouse. It's not like he was working with an AAU coach in San Diego or some guy in Compton. Pop and general manager R.C. Buford respected who Kawhi was being treated by, but disrespected it with someone other than their people. Pop didn't like someone else praying over him. It's like we'd gone for holistic help. Quote, R.C. knew we'd made an educated decision. After all, he made the same decision for one or maybe two of his family members. Might have been two, actually. If you trust Glasgow to operate on family members, why wouldn't you trust him to work with Kawhi? What? Our legendary doctor is lying? Really? Close quotes. That's why you never heard R.C. question Kawhi's lingering recuperation. He was kept informed about what was going on every step of the way. Pop, on the other hand, voiced frustration with Kawhi's unavailability. Didn't try to hide his vexation. Accentuated he, quote, never, close quote, seen anything in his entire career like Kawhi was experiencing with his quad. Quote, what's weird, quote, close quote, said Pop, planting seeds of suspicion, is that Tony Parker is essentially the same issue, quote, a quad tendon, but worse, close quote, and returned to play 55 games, though I point out sparingly, 19.5 minutes, and ineffectively 7.7 points, 3.5 assists. By doing so, Pop depreciated the authenticity of Kawhi's injury, undermined his commitment to the team, challenged his credibility, undercut his admiration by the fans, and outright alienated him by pressuring Kawhi to report by a certain date down the stretch or forget the season. Pop's attitude turned teammates into opponents and left Parker wide open for a lane violation to take a pot shot at Kawhi, saying his injury was 100 times worse. Quote, that's probably why he'd fall down every play going north to south, said my source. Kawhi's weak side helped harumph. Clearly, his surgically repaired quad hadn't fully healed. But Tony's 36 and hopes to hang on for another year or two. Kawhi's 24 and wasn't about to risk suffering a career-ending injury. See Kevin Durant again. Late in the season, no one stuck up for him at a team meeting when his integrity was questioned. Not privately, not publicly afterward. Kawhi's absence didn't divide the locker room. It united it against him. Quote, Kawhi is angry with all his teammates, disclosed my source. He treated him unfairly. They know his heart. They know he's a hard worker. He busted his ass every day to get better at both ends. They know he's not about self and all about team. They know he's a stand-up guy. If he's not well, he can't give 100%, 110%, then he's not playing. They felt he should play anyway. They saw it was all about them. They wanted him to play for them. Quote, no one gave him the benefit of the doubt, says the source. People thought he wouldn't play if he were healthy. Seriously? His teammates and the fans and the media not learned anything about him in 6 seasons? Quote, meanwhile, Pop kept applying pressure by making it seem as if Kawhi was day to day. At one point, Pop said he was out indefinitely, but kept him on the active roster. It gave hope to the masses. That's what the Vatican does. Close quotes. The least Kawhi could have, should have done, I submitted, was support the Spurs during their first 6-game loss to the Jazz. Quote, it was uncomfortable. It was an uncomfortable situation, said my source. He didn't show up because he knew he'd be swamped by the fans and media. He didn't want to cause a commotion and distract the team. Quote, now what? Quote, emotionally, Kawhi is checked out of the Spurs. He wants the Lakers, even though it means forfeiting $80 million. Everyone is shocked. He'd give up that much money. But when it's emotional, there's no logic. He's an artist. When artists know what they're getting jerked around, they want out no matter what the cost. He feels the organization didn't even try to wrap its arms around him. You don't know anyone until you go something like this, something difficult. Kawhi got to see people's true colors. It's not about numbers. It's about love or lack thereof. His mother's house in San Antonio is almost completed. His home hasn't begun to be built. He's prepared to go and have his mother stay. Despite the fact, Kawhi feels the organization treated him like he cheated. Despite all of the above, inexplicably, according to the source, he likes Pop. What? Does that mean the relationship can be rekindled? Quote, if Pop admits to fucking things up, concedes mistakes were made, there's a chance that could happen, the source said. It'd be an intensely emotional conversation. Kawhi doesn't give a fuck about the money he'll lose. He feels he can do what he wants. He has stability and stature now. He's found his voice. If he doesn't like you and doesn't like the way he's been treated, he'll find a team that'll treat him with respect. Quote, LeBron is different, the complete opposite. He didn't give a fuck how Dan Gilbert treated him. He agreed to come back to the Cavaliers and play for someone he doesn't like for the love of Cleveland. He returned to win a title for the city and gets little credit for that. Close quotes. My source confirms reports the Spurs have eliminated Kawhi's idea of being traded to the Lakers, for the time being anyway. Should Kawhi and Pop be unable to make up, if apologies aren't offered, or they're unacceptable, the plan is to get something worthwhile, hopefully from an Eastern Conference team. Leonard's value seemingly evaporates altogether should he decline to commit to an interesting suitor past next season. Quote, regardless, it's doubtful the Spurs would ever send Kawhi to the Lakers, my source believes. Their stance is, if we're going to get a divorce, we're not going to let you pick your next husband. Every time he'd play the Spurs, he'd get 40. An emotional 40. Heads with titles would roll. Close quotes. We're almost through, folks. Last summer, Popovich asked LaMarcus Aldridge's forgiveness but placing him in a position to fail instead of taking advantage of the strengths they paid important recruiting money to get. I expect that recipe will be served next time that Pop and Kawhi meet. Asking forgiveness is a powerfully effective negotiating tool, I hear from counselors, unless the Spurs plan to go back to being an undeveloped nation. Quote, I was wrong. You're special. We should have wrapped our arms around you. We love your game, but we love you more. Close quote. That's what he had to say, but didn't. Those are the kind of messages Kawhi wanted to hear loud and clear. Affection tends to terminate defection. Attest any man with a will to remain married. The unsanctioned cynic in me suspects a casual mention of max money, $219 million, somewhere in the conversation, perhaps might seal the deal. That's basically it. That's it. I mean, there's more, but yeah, I mean, so it's pretty damn clear, you know, who fucked up. Popovich. And you know, Kawhi is a man. Professional, you know, a registered adult. And Popovich a bully. He's a bully. I've always said he's a bully.
That is an impressive piece of history right there, Peter Vecsey. And I mean, you got the sources. You were able to get in and get an abundance of inside information. Stuff that people just don't know about. You know,
and didn't care to find out. Didn't care to find out.
You put it out there. You're absolutely right.
No, but I forget about me putting it out there. I mean, how about doing your own homework? How about not taking stuff right out of, you know, Yahoo or ESPN or whatever, you know? How about doing your own homework for a change? You know, the New York Post these days is like, all they do is they take stories that were on, you know, on the internet, they give them credit and they write a whole story about it. They don't even know if it's true. They have no idea if it's true. They're just quoting another writer. It's absurd.
It is.
But that's, you know, that's the media these days. Not all of them.
You brought up some interesting points. You brought up Isiah Thomas. You brought up the most recent example, Kevin Durant. What are your thoughts on this notion that people need to do it for the love of the game, and they need to play injured, and they need to show that they're tough, and all this other nonsense that you hear, not only in sports media, but from fans, I mean, the whole 9 yards here. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, if you saw my tweets, I mean, everybody knows my thoughts on these. I've always said, you know, going back many, many years when I, you know, not the beginning of my coverage, but toward the beginning when Andrew Toney went through this same kind of stuff with Philadelphia, the owner, Harold Katz, asshole that he is, was, and will be forever, questioned his willingness to play. He had a stress fracture that their doctors couldn't find, and, you know, accused him of jaking it. And, you know, it wasn't for months until they finally did find the stress fracture. He basically never played again. And so I had situations before that, but that will always stick out in my mind. Tony didn't return to the team for a reunion, I think, for maybe 30 years. And so the Durant situation, you know, just infuriates me that fans say, well, he wanted to play. So it was his, you know, as much his fault as anybody. I said, no, that's not true. Because players always want to play. As much as fans and the media and teammates and coaches and owners, you know, claim differently either on the record or off the record, usually off the record, and the media just jots it down and repeats it, but, as anonymous. But they need to be protected from themselves because they'll always want to play. And in this case, he didn't get the right information. He got inaccurate information from the organization, you know, that Sniffles, what's his name, Myers, going on, you know, that phony act of his, you know, after Durant tore his Achilles and, you know, saying it was a collaborative decision, and he claimed he didn't know, he's not a doctor, he didn't know if the calf was related to the Achilles. I mean, you asshole, you had a month of talking to doctors. You don't know that they are connected? connected. But more than that, the doctors and the collaborative, whatever, but it's the doctors claimed, there we had, Doris Jerk or Burke or whatever her name is going on television. She played the game and she's just reciting some statement from the team saying that, he cannot hurt himself worse than he already is. Did she ever have an injury, that she felt couldn't get worse if she played if it was hurting her? Are you kidding me? And it was worse. So I truly, Duke, I expect at some point, a tremendous, a mammoth lawsuit for medical malpractice against these guys for saying that this is the information that he had and he went out there. And then I'll say another thing. It's like, people who understand, what it's all about. It's like when he felt that twinge, he was perplexed. He didn't react in pain. He didn't scream. Try tearing an Achilles and not scream. So what it tells me is he was, almost certainly drugged up, either shot up or pills or whatever, which is so dangerous. Ask Bill Walton about that. There's a perfect example going back further than Tony. Ask him what he felt about when Dr. Cook was, he agreed to take being shot up with numbing painkillers. So now, maybe Durant, had he not been numbed up, he would have felt pain before and stopped playing. But he didn't feel the pain until it happened. And then he didn't even look like he felt the pain. He never reacted with the pain. I'm sorry, that whole thing was a fiasco. And I'm just, I just have no tolerance for fans and media who see it another way that he was right to play. He's so wrong to play. And Duke, I wrote that before the game too, like 3 hours before the game. I question that if he plays, he's totally wrong for playing if he does, and that the organization should not be going along with this. That they were so wrong to do. And bingo.
Well, and that's why you call what's his name there Sniffles, because he sure was doing the whole water work, crying.
What a phony Bob Myers is. God almighty.
What is going on with Golden State? I mean, Klay Thompson, they were trying to will him back into the game, it appears, when he got injured. Previously, we have a guy like Steph Curry who smashes his head on the court, and they allowed him to play with a concussion. I mean, what is going on with that organization?
I don't know. I don't know if he Duke, that was a year or two ago that happened with Curry. I don't know if he had the concussion, but they didn't know he didn't have the concussion. They let him play. His parents let him play too. His parents went back with him. I remember he came out, he played, I'm screaming. Now, how can they let this guy play? Just get his head on the floor. But with Klay again, why was so he's he's a warrior. You tell that soldier to take that hill, man, he will take that hill. They don't care what kind of fire is coming at him. That's his MO. So, they brag about, him being a He-Man and stuff, and he hurt his hamstring, missed the game, came back, played 2 games, and then 30 minutes in the next game, and then injured, and then tears his ACL. Now, I don't know. I'm not a doctor. I don't know if that's related, but it seems to me, anytime I've been around anybody with a hamstring, it takes a damn long sight, more than a few days to get over a hamstring pull. And so was he being shot up? I don't know. But, to me, the leg had to be weak. And that's what happened. Cause he came down awkwardly, not that awkwardly. Came down on one leg, and turned it a little bit, but to me, the leg was weak, and that's what happens when it is weak. So, I think the Warrior organization is weak. And I seriously, Philadelphia fired a couple doctors, because I guess they were upset that Embiid, got hurt a lot or somebody else got hurt a lot, but Embiid, the guy who was hurt and played in the All-Star game and then didn't play for weeks and weeks afterward, but he was able to play in the All-Star game. So whose fault was that? Was that the Philly doctors? But I totally anticipate those doctors being fired and sued. I do. And, people point out to me that their top doctor left. He went to Atlanta with, I can't think of his name, but he's the GM president of Atlanta. He was with with the Warriors. And so he took the lead doctor with him. So these guys are new. Or guy or whatever. And I'll say it again, which I've said a million times over the years. Team doctors are called team doctors because they're paid by the team. And don't tell me that they're not under stress and strain to pressure from up above to get guys out on the court, especially to the finals.
I mean, it's terrible. And when you think about it, Isiah Thomas, like you said in the column there, how much money did he lose coming back and playing hurt?
Never again. I could see a lawsuit there too. I mean, I think I've read something about a possible lawsuit, but this is so cut and dry. The team announcing it couldn't be worse. Couldn't get worse.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Duke, let me just say one thing. I don't know Kevin Durant that well. I only met him once this year in Phoenix. We had a nice talk. If I were around in that day, I would have had my say to him before that game. I'm telling you.
And you would have told him to stay off the damn court, huh?
Absolutely. I would have reiterated, but I would have got him alone and told him all the instances that I can cite. Regarding Grant Hill, I was in a locker room in Orlando when he played for Detroit in a playoff game, and his ankle was hurting, and Doug Collins was there pressuring him to play. I watched it, pressuring him to play. He played. It's like, are you kidding? Jack Ramsey, who, everybody's, God coach, pressuring Bill Walton to play, pressuring him. So, it's amazing how things are forgotten over the years. Years later, of course, Bill being the phony that he is, I love Jack Ramsey and stuff. But I'll read you the quote someday, what Bill was saying about Jack Ramsey in the 70s, late 70s.
Unbelievable.
They might forget, but I don't forget.
Ain't that the truth there? And, it just serves as a lesson to all of you athletes out there aspiring, or if you actually made it to the big dance. It's a business. And your body is your business. Forget about the team. Forget about for the love of the game. Forget about all that crap. Don't put your body in a position where legitimately you're making it possible for it to be the last time you step out on the field or on the court.
That's going back. Go back to grammar school for that. Where coaches will pressure you and embarrass you. I'm going to give you a perfect example. My son, and this is why I am an authority on calf injuries. My son tore his calf in a camp, Kenny Smith's camp in North Carolina. My son was going into freshman year, and before the camp actually started, he and Nolan, Derek Smith, Nolan Smith's son, were playing together on the same team. Nolan became a really good player. At where? Carolina? Duke? I can't even remember. He's a coach of Duke, so it must have been Duke. And so in the first hours or so, my son was playing great in this game and double, triple teaming him and stuff. And they sandwiched him, and he tore his calf. And nobody knew his calf was torn, but he couldn't walk. And Kenny Smith's camp had no doctor. None. We had to go to Duke. We had to drive to Duke to see somebody over there. And we come back, and Kenny Smith's brother is like questioning my son, that he had the guts. Well, you're punking out, you don't want to play. that kind of shit. I've never spoken to the Smith family again after that. Ever. Never will. Never will. They try to put pressure on him. They try to embarrass him in front of people. They try to degrade him. So we drive back to New York, and I have a real good doctor, a very famous doctor that I know, and Dr. O'Brien, Stephen O'Brien. He used to be the Giants doctor, and he runs a big medical place in New York, very famous. And we went to see him, and he told me that if I had come in a week later, my son would never play the way he could again, because the calf, something happens with the calf that you don't operate him. You have to rehab and rest it, just like like Durant should have done. But he was rehab. He wasn't rehabbing. He was trying to just get back on the court. But anyway, he told me, another week, my son he would have played again, but he would have kept injuring it and re-injuring over the years. And so he went through a strenuous, rehab after that. So I know how dangerous that calf injury is. He told me at the time, he said, the second most dangerous injury. Achilles first, calf second.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, Peter, you've definitely said a mouthful today, brother. I mean, you've covered it all.
Yeah.
Real quick, you excited about the draft on Thursday?
Not really.
You already know what's going to happen anyway.
No, I mean, what do I care? I'm interested in trades and stuff and free agency, but
sure, you got the Lakers, huh? The Lakers are the odds-on favorite to win it all next year now, huh?
Yeah, good luck with that. I mean, you got a guy 35 years old who's going to be 35 in LeBron, who just went through a bad injury. Let's go back to Kobe when he was 35 and his body started to break down the same way. And so, yeah, you got that. And then you got Davis, who, somebody pointed out on Twitter, he's lucky to play 48 games. And where is he taking his team? And he's had some good players next to him. So both of those guys could break down easily. And, so I don't, do they have cap money to surround them with anybody worthwhile? I don't know. It's funny. Again, going back to Kawhi, people are talking about, the kind of money it would take to give a max contract to somebody. Well, if Kawhi, I don't know what he would command as a free agent. How much would he command? 190 million? I don't know. Some are more. I don't know. But, conceivably they could fit in it. Conceivably they could fit Kimber in or Kawhi or Kyrie in or something like that. But, you've got other slots. You're gonna end up with the same kind of as you had last year. Where everybody fill in the blanks with guys on 1-year contracts. So I don't think they're a given at all. There's too many question marks. Is that enough?
We're gonna have to wait and see what happens.
We are gonna have to wait and see.
Yeah, you'll know before I do. I know that.
No, I don't think so.
Now, last time you were on, Peter, we had our talk. You plugged your love for animals and for taking care of animals and being kind to animals and what have you. Is there anything else you want to plug again, or you want to plug that?
No, I'm just I'm an animal nut, and I'm proud of it. So no, just if you can adopt. If you can, pledge money, take a dog home for a night. I loved it when I volunteered at Best Friends up in Utah recently. I love the fact that they allowed volunteers to take a dog home for the night and, see if you bonded with them and all that stuff. It was a great experience, Best Friends. Recommend people to look at that closely if you've got some extra money.
Yeah, and I'll tag all their information, folks, in the comments section. If you're interested in checking out Best Friends, Peter mentioned them before. It's definitely an organization that he's passionate about because they are serious about an issue that he's passionate about.
Well, their motto is, save everyone. They don't kill anyone. So it's a no-kill place in there. 3,500 acres in southern Utah. That's you got to go there just to believe it. You can't even believe it. It's so beautiful, and the way the animals are taken care of. And if the animals are sick, they've got a whole brand new medical facility that takes care of them and fixes them. And we're talking about birds, we're talking about mink, we're talking about horses, donkeys, dogs, cats, turtles, parrots. Everything is crazy. It's beautiful.
They're like a zoo, but even more humane, huh?
No question. They all have a lot of room. They're well taken care of. A lot of freedom.
Impressive. Just like yourself. Listen, Peter, the Hall of Famer Peter Vecsey, as always, I appreciate your insight. I appreciate the fact that you're not afraid to say what needs to be said. You stand by your words, and 9 times out of 10, who can question it? You know what I mean? It's like you have the sources, you have the knowledge, you study.
A lot of it's opinion, but a lot of it's homework. So it's that quiet piece was all homework, and anybody could have gotten it if they just probed deep enough. But all they do is they accept what a guy like Popovich says, and and a lot of people, except Durant accepted what the Warriors told him. Wow.
And I really hope he pulls through. Who knows if he'll even play next season? That's a tough part.
I don't think he'll play next season.
Yeah, an injury like that. How does that affect the free agency? That's my question.
Well, I think there'll be teams willing to give him money. I don't know if it'll be max. I have no idea, but if it's a team like the Knicks that are willing to give it to him, then to me they've already made a deal with him, and that's why they're giving him a max, because the Knicks can't afford to tie up $30-40 million in cap money and try to get better, and then hope that he comes back and is a facsimile of himself. So if they do that, then to me that means that they'd already made a deal with him.
That's a hot take for you folks. That's a hot take. Peter Vecsey, thank you very much. We'll be checking back in with you sometime. All right.
All right. You take care. Bye.
Wow, what do you think about that? Goodness gracious. Peter is not one to hold his tongue. This guy says what's on his mind, and he means what he says. That's why I respect him, I'll tell you. So that's it for now, folks. As always, you can head over to Twitter, head over to Facebook, type in Duke Loves Wrestling. That's RASSLIN. Let me know what you think. Most of the time I'm covering pro wrestling and combat sports, talking to folks about that stuff. But when it comes to Peter Vecsey, I got to get my NBA fix, baby. That's what it's all about, So send in your comments, and I'll even link Peter's Twitter account. So if you want to follow along and get updated on what's going on in the NBA, especially with free agency, Peter is an excellent follow online. Be kind to yourselves. Be kind to others. This is the Duke from the Duke Loves Wrestling podcast saying, we'll catch you next time.
Mr. Tony Schiavone, and we're desperately out of time on Duke Loves Wrestling.